back to my No Time to Die Bondathon series of reviews where I'm talking about every single James Bond film, at least the official ones anyway, leading up to No Time to Die in April. We have talked about the first 9 Bond films through The Man with the Golden Gun. We are now going to talk about the 10th one, and that is The Spy Who Loved Me. This was released in 1977, and The Spy Who Loved Me sees Bond, once again played by Roger Moore, who, after accidentally killing a Russian agent's boyfriend, that Russian agent played by Mrs. Ringo Starr, Barbara Bach, he has to team up with said Russian agent, Anya Amasova, to take down Stromberg, who captures 2 submarines and wants to launch missiles at 2 different cities, so he can wipe out the entire human race and create a new race of humans under the sea. The Spy Who Loved Me is seen as a return to form for a lot of people for the Bond series. This is definitely the best of the Roger Moore ones. It's not my favorite of the Roger Moore ones. I've already stated that The Man with the Golden Gun is definitely my favorite Roger Moore Bond film, but this, honestly, is better than The Man with the Golden Gun, which is why I put it above Man with the Golden Gun, and this is a top 5 Bond film for me. This stands at, as it is right now, number 5. I am with all those critics who really like The Spy Who Loved Me. This is definitely the most serious of the Roger Moore Bond films. This has very little camp in it, and the camp that it has I will talk about in a little bit, but this has very little camp in it. It's a more serious tone. The instances of comedy aren't there in place of a story like they are in other Roger Moore Bond films. This is the one where I think that this is Roger Moore at his best. This is where I think he gives the best performance in a Bond movie as Bond. And his trail that leads him to Stromberg is really interesting, and the fact that he has to team up with a Russian agent, which at the time, obviously this took place during the Cold War, so there were all these implications. It's a really interesting take, because what would happen if you had to do that in the Cold War? If a British spy had to team up with a Russian spy in the Cold War, I really don't know what would happen. I mean, I would assume they would get along like Bond and Amasova did, but one of the best aspects of this movie is definitely Agent Amasova, aka Agent Triple X. As I've stated before, she's played by Mrs. Ringo Starr, Barbara Bach. She's played magnificently by Barbara Bach. I think Barbara Bach gives a really good performance, but I've always loved the humanity that Triple X displays in this movie, and that's honestly what the best Bond girls have to do. The best Bond girls are the characters that show that they are capable and strong, and they're not just there to be sexualized. Yeah, sure, Barbara Bach has the sex appeal, and it's definitely in this movie, but she shows she can hold her own. She's actually a human being. She's actually a person. She's not just somebody coming out of the water in a giant bikini like Halle Berry and Die Another Day. Or somebody like Denise Richards, who for some reason played a nuclear scientist in The World Is Not Enough, but is there wearing a tank top and short shorts, because we all know how great looking Denise Richards was. Yes, Barbara Bach, when she was very young, was very beautiful. She had the sex appeal. She added layers to the character of Triple X in this movie by being strong, capable, independent. She didn't rely on Bond. She was able to force Bond into his lane. She actually presented kind of a challenge for Bond, and that was really interesting in this movie. And Roger Moore and Barbara Bach have really good chemistry in this movie. That can be said. There is no doubt that that's a huge strength of this movie. Another big aspect of The Spy Who Loved Me I love is the henchman of Jaws. Unfortunately, he gets ruined in the next movie, and I'll talk about that when I get to Moonraker, but he is magnificent in this movie. He's that big tough guy. You know that tough guy Indiana Jones has to always face? He's like that, but he just keeps popping up and popping up and popping up, and it seems like there's no way to kill him. He's one of the best henchmen, at least for now anyway, in a Bond film. He's probably the best henchman in a Bond film, because you think he's dead, but he just pops up. He's this big, burly, strong guy who has metal teeth. Don't get bitten by him. Please, do whatever you do, stay away from him. Do not get bitten by him. I love how he's just always here to be like, hey Bond, I'm here to cause trouble. Try and beat me. I bet you can't. You thought you did? Well, I'm coming back to wherever your next location is, and I'm gonna come and try and kill you then too. He's also a silent henchman. He doesn't say a single word. That just makes Jaws more scary, more menacing. The fact that he actually has those metal teeth, that just makes him scary right off the bat. That just makes him more menacing right off the bat. I've always loved Jaws in this movie. He's easily the best part of The Spy Who Loved Me. The action scenes are really good in this movie too. My favorite parts in this movie though are always the more calm parts. There's not really an action scene in this movie that sticks out, but I do know that when I just watched the movie, I enjoyed the action scenes I was watching, especially the one that takes place in the third act in Stromberg's lair. That one is really good. I really like that, but the more calm, drawn-out moments of this film, like Bond tracking down Jaws in Egypt, magnificent, and then Agent XXX follows Bond behind the soundstage to try and get Jaws, and Jaws ends up killing someone behind that soundstage. That was great. The fight with Jaws in Egypt, I love, and there's the perfect amount of comedy from Roger Moore sprinkled throughout this movie. I love that part where he and XXX are trying to escape from Jaws, and XXX is trying to drive the car, and she can't get the car to drive. I've always loved that line where Roger Moore just goes, "Would you like me to drive?" It's moments like that where Roger Moore's humor works. Sometimes it does get a bit campy in his era of Bond, and it doesn't work to that extent. When he's like that, that's when it works. We also open on a very, very cool ski chase. I love this pre-title sequence, and then on parachuting off, and then it fades into one of the best theme songs a Bond film has, and that is Nobody Does It Better. No, this theme song is not called The Spy Who Loved Me, but it's not a top 5 theme song for me. It's a top 10er for me. It starts off a bit slow and it takes a bit to get going, but once the actual beat kicks in for this theme song, it's a really good theme song, and I love how it's not called The Spy Who Loved Me, because can you imagine a song called The Spy Who Loved Me? That wouldn't be cool. Nobody Does It Better is a very, very underrated Bond song, I'll say that. The visuals in that credit sequence are great as well. For issues with The Spy Who Loved Me, there's a few. There is some camp in this movie. As I said, they toned it down in this movie, but there's still some of that Roger Moore era camp. Like when he gets his new Lotus car from Q and then he goes underwater. That's just one thing that's a little campy, but when he comes out of the water and he's driving the car on the beach, not really a fan of that. No. Shouldn't be in a Bond film. Also, when you really think about it, this plot is ultimately recycled from You Only Live Twice, and Stromberg's not really that menacing of a villain. Yeah, sure, he's got webbed hands. Does that make him really, menacing, though? I love that Stromberg's a recluse, but his ultimate scheme is the same thing that Blofeld wanted to do in You Only Live Twice. I'll give the movie this. I'd rather have the villain start a race of people underwater rather than in space, which happens in the next one. I'll talk about that when I get to Moonraker, because Moonraker recycles this exact same plot, but in space. I'll talk about that when I get to Moonraker. So those are the couple of things that I have issues with The Spy Who Loved Me. Some campiness that doesn't really work. Thankfully, not a lot of campiness, but a couple of moments. That beach scene is just one aspect of the campiness that I don't like in this film. And then Stromberg as a villain isn't very memorable, and his whole scheme just feels like a recycled plot of You Only Live Twice. Other than that, The Spy Who Loved Me is really great. This is the best Roger Moore film. I love Jaws. I love the chemistry between Bond and Agent Amasova. I love how she has to continually question herself, how she's actually a human being, how she's not just there to be eye candy on the screen. Roger Moore is also really good as Bond in this. You get some great action scenes in here. This is one of the better Bond films. Definitely check this one out if you haven't checked it out. It's a top 5 for me. It's right at number 5, and I'm going to give The Spy Who Loved Me an A. Guys, what did you think of The Spy Who Loved Me? I hope you stick around for more reviews in this Bond series. There are more coming very soon. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. I will leave my link to my website in the description below. You will find all my links to my social media accounts there as well. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.